I cannot think of a better group of people to dig into these topics with. So let me just dive right in. Tiffany, I would love to start with you and just kind of talk a little bit broadly about this hybrid in-person environment we're entering in and what you found, like what works today, what doesn't work, and where you internally have found success attracting talent with the way you guys have decided to work throughout the pandemic.
Thanks so much for having me. Yes, absolutely. The world of work has changed. You know, we at H&R Block have a very deep and connected culture. So when we all were spread kind of far and wide during the pandemic, it was really important for us to continue to keep that connection. And so we listened to our associates. And as we thought about coming back to work and what that might look like, we polled them, we had a listening strategy, and our associates told us that they really do value that deep connection, but they also really value the flexibility that they had during the pandemic or during the height of it. So for us, we are in a hybrid environment, and that means that we are encouraging people to be in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but it's absolutely up to them. And so people are making their choices. I think that helps us when it comes to recruitment. You know, people right now want to work and can work from kind of wherever they sit. So having that connection and having that deep purpose when you come to the office is very important to us, but also having that flexibility has been really important to continuing to attract and retain talent.
Great. And Iesha, I'd like to go to you next. Now, Docusign has gone through a lot of changes in the past year, and I want to talk about how you retain talent in that kind of environment, and also especially in the tech industry, which is hyper competitive for tech talent. What have you experienced so far?
Well, Steve, thanks so much for having me. And like Tiffany, we are working very much in this new era of work. And what we've done as we think about it from a perspective of retaining our tech talent is we've sustained our focus on continuing to support our employees in the manner in which they need to work and they are most productive. We think about it from a frame of the new era of work and allowing our employees to be and work where they are most productive, whether that is in the office, remote, or a hybrid working relationship. That being said, what we've continued with are a lot of our leadership development programs that are developing talent at varying levels within the organizations with a focus on our technical talent, our diverse talent, and our talent from a general management perspective. We're doing that through our Next Level Leadership program that is targeted to continue to elevate and develop our diverse talent within the organization with a pivot on focusing on technical talent. And as we think about extending the brand and the why for why an employee would want to join Docusign, it really is about continuing to develop our deep sense of purpose and having that come to life in our ability to attract talent to the organization. We have found that in this hybrid environment, in this new era of work, that being able to connect to the communities and extend that to our employee population and those that will join us from a tech perspective. That deep sense of purpose has gone a long way in helping us to attract, retain, and develop our talent and connecting to our broader communities.
That's great. Thank you. And DJ, I'll go to you next. There was this Microsoft study, DJ, a few weeks ago. I actually reported about it on air for CNBC. And without getting too specific about the data, basically what it showed was this huge disconnect between what managers think about the work environment today and what the employees think, with managers thinking, hey, our employees need to be in the office so we can literally see them being productive. And on the other hand, you have the employees saying, I can be plenty productive working from home, and in fact, I'm more productive working from home with all that flexibility. And then Microsoft has its own data showing, yeah, actually people are quite productive when they're working from home. So the disconnect between management and the employees is very real and felt across so many companies. And I know you're really big on trust between the employee, trust between management. And I was curious if you could talk a little bit about what you're experiencing there on this gap between how these two cohorts think about it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I will share a lot of the comments that my colleagues just articulated in their intro. You know, we have spent a lot of time really focused on trust. And, you know, we've done all the active listening that my colleagues just shared. But I think the key element to this is if you're going to go all in, which we did, with regards to flexibility and choice, you have to also take a step back and think about kind of the entire ecosystem that you have to reimagine to complement this once-in-a-lifetime change that's happening in the workforce. And so at a time that we also committed to flexibility and choice for our employees, we also reimagined performance management. And we've kind of went all in with regards to more quarterly connects where the employee and manager have more frequent and transparent conversations, because I think that's what continues to rebuild the trust over and over again. We saw an unprecedented amount of, in our company, great outcomes over the last 2 years. So the proven case that this can work has already been presented. And so for us, it's about the sustainment of that. And so at the hallmark of this is frequent and consistent kind of performance conversations that allow that realignment on a daily and quarterly basis with the employee and manager, so that we are outcome driven and that we can continue to sustain providing the flexibility and choice that our employees need to be their best.
And DJ, what have you found that people are, when they have those conversations with their employees about that? I mean, are these aren't necessarily performance reviews, I assume. Like, what are the nature of those conversations like?
Well, I think we've all decided just to bring life to the table at work, right? And so what the manager and employee are doing is just having the discussion around what are the obstacles that you're facing right now, both at home and at work. How can I help to navigate that? We've really invested a lot in coaching. And I think this is critical to the success in our company with regards to sustaining this new way of working for the long term. Our employees and our managers need coaches to help support them to unpack everything that's in front of them, both personally and professionally. And so it might be, how do I best navigate managing my schedule? How do I ensure when? We all talk about purposeful connections on still coming to work, because we do believe that coming to some of our workspaces for certain events make a lot of sense for collaboration, for kind of a reboot on innovation. And so these discussions, these kind of scheduled brokering allow kind of transparency between the manager and employee and help us, again, to drive the outcomes we need to deliver for the business.
Great, thanks. Let's switch over to DEI. Iesha, I want to pick your brain about this one. In this new environment, I mean, DEI has always been important. It has definitely had a renewed focus in the last couple of years, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. There was a lot more talk about it. What have you learned about making DEI hiring a priority during the pandemic? Is this hybrid work environment or full remote work environment, does it make it easier? Are there new challenges to DEI hiring? Just talk a little bit about what you've experienced with that over the last couple years.
Yeah, so at Docusign, we have invested a great deal in what we're calling inclusive hiring and really driving a focus on, even in the midst of this new era of work, how do we continue to keep DEI as top priority and weave it into every aspect of our employee life cycle. And with that, from a hiring perspective, what we have continued to focus on is not only manager enablement through inclusive hiring learning, but also enabling our talent acquisition partners and our broad HR community with the necessary tools to hire and think about DEI at every step of the hiring process. So that's one approach that we've taken. Another approach that we've taken is extending our visibility to diverse communities and partners that allow us to continue to diversify our pipeline. We invested in the onboarding of a talent that is helping to not only drive subject matter expertise within and across our HR system, but also with our business leaders to arm and help us develop that muscle of inclusive hiring at every step of the process. And as we go out and partner with various external organizations that are helping us to diversify our pipeline through these strategic partnerships, it is not only creating additional pipeline diversity, it is also creating the necessary stickiness within our organization to continue to retain our talent and leveraging our employees as our best ambassadors of the Docusign brand. So those are two things that I would point to that we're continuing to do. It's the manager enablement, it's the HR enablement, and leveraging our employee base to be the extensions of our brand as we seek to connect with diverse communities and keep DEI as a top priority throughout every aspect of our process, and specifically our hiring process.
And Iesha, during the pandemic, has that changed at all? Has it, made it more challenging for you to make those kind of hires, or has it become easier because, hey, you can work from anywhere? So that kind of has that widened and broadened the pool of workers you've been able to go after?
Certainly, as we continue to focus on reimagining our physical spaces, it also has opened up a new horizon for us as we think about where our talent is physically based. And so to your point, Steve rightfully identified, is it has created a level of positive impact in our ability to diversify our talent, because we are going to where the diverse talent is, and we are creating the necessary mechanisms and enabling them with the tools to be successful where they are physically in that geography. And so while, as an example, we may not have a physical presence in a particular state or global geography, we are enabling and empowering that talent to remain where they can continue to be in community, grow personally and professionally, and doing so by enabling them with the tools and allowing them to remain in a remote working status and creating those opportunities, as DJ pointed out, those purposeful opportunities where direct connection through leveraging our physical spaces create an extension and continued connection to the broader Docusign.
Great, thanks. Tiffany, I'll come to you next. I know Deirdre talked about this in one of the earlier panels, but I wanted to pick your brain about it too. And it's international talent. There's a huge talk about, as people kind of do this quiet quitting or people changing their jobs during the pandemic, there's this idea that we need to reach out to international talent in order to kind of fill up those gaps. Can you talk about the trouble you may have been having, or maybe it's easier now to bring international talent in, whether that be through visas or keeping them, just attracting them initially? Can you just talk about what you're seeing there bringing international workers into your company?
Sure. I think, just like my fellow panelists said, and I mentioned earlier, you can now have the luxury of working from wherever you want. I think the challenge with that, whether it's an international talent or a domestic talent, is still that connection and building those really strong connected pieces between the associate and the purpose of the company, and making sure that people feel like they really do belong and they see themselves at this company, they see themselves at H&R Block, and they see what they do and how that ladders up to the strategy. So I think that the most important thing with any talent, international or otherwise, is continuing to foster those connections and continuing to foster what we call it at H&R Block, a belonging at Block, that sense of I can bring my authentic self to work and my authentic self is appreciated and valued, and I'm contributing to a greater goal, if you will, versus a siloed kind of I'm just in my function or my area.
Great. So I'm going to do a fun one. I'm going to do a little whip around here. The three of you sound very open to hybrid work environments, listening to the workers, and so on. At the same time, a lot of businesses are deciding the opposite. They're deciding we need to mandate people to come back to the office, whether that's 3 days a week or all 5 days a week. And I want to start just hear quickly from each of you your thoughts on mandating a return to office versus kind of keeping it open like you are within your own organization. So, DJ, if you can kind of start what you think broadly about companies that are mandating a return and the benefits and drawbacks of that.
Listen, we talked about this earlier. I think flexibility and choice is the new currency. And if you want to field the best team, you got to give them the resources for them to be their best. And for us, doing the active listening for our workforce, over 85% of our employees told us that this new way of working was working for them in 2020. Today, 95% of our employees are telling us this new way of working is working for them. And so our job is to help them be their best, and we'll see that play out with an outcome. So for me, it's an easy answer. This new way of working needs to be able to work for everyone, and we need to double down on the investments and infrastructure needed to sustain it in the long term.
Iesha, what do you think about mandates?
Yeah, so what I would say is the new era of work is about flexibility and choice, as DJ pointed out. Our employees have said a resounding that they want to continue to have the flexibility and choice, and I think organizations will continue to work through what that will mean for them in the organization. The critical piece here is that we have to continue to listen to our employees and understand how our business is moving such that we are creating an intersection of where individuals have the flexibility and the choice to do their best and greatest work. We think about it from a Docusign perspective as we have thought about it since our inception. Our mission has been about accelerating business and simplifying the life of companies and people all around the globe. And that will look different for every company, and that will look different for every person. person. And so being able to have that flexibility with guiding principles and purposeful commitment to enabling individuals to do their best work is what's mission critical.
And Tiffany, I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but let's go for it anyway. Mandates, what are your thoughts?
I'm absolutely in agreement with my fellow panelists. I think flexibility is the way of working now and into the future. I think that meeting people where they are, allowing them to connect in really meaningful ways and work in the way that they want is really, really important. And I think that allows us all to get great talent that we would not have maybe been able to otherwise. I think the importance of connection, though, is also really important. And so for us at H&R Block, when we bring people together, it is with intention and it is with purpose. So we will hold a global town hall and have as many people in person as we can. We will fill up that week with really important connections for people to make so they see each other in real life, some of them for the first time. So I think we absolutely have to be flexible. I think when we do bring people together, it needs to be with intention and purpose. And I think that together creates just a better culture and you get a better product out of your work and your strategy.